What is up, everybody? It is me, Michael McCune, coming at you with another video from Mike Myers H2O, and welcome to one of the most scariest places on the face of this earth, and one of the most haunted hospitals in the United States, and that is Waverly Hills Sanatorium, located in Louisville, Kentucky. Hope you guys like and enjoy this. I'm gonna keep going with the introduction. Stands loafy bat-winged Gothic building that has repetition that fits somewhat spooky appearance. That repetition is as one of the most haunted places in America, being featured on such ghost hunting shows as Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, Paranormal Lockdown, and BuzzFeed Unsolved. And its name is Waverly Hills Sanatorium. In spite of its modern ghostly repetition, it was established as the best hope of peace for people struggling with tuberculosis in the first half of the 20th century. Desperate's name, Waverly Hills, was not a mental hospital. Sanatorium is any institution that provides treatment and convenience for chronic illness. Even in the face of noble interactions of its admirers, Waverly Hills became the site of thousands of deaths. In the face of a raging epidemic of then incredible disease, here are just some of the horrible things that have led to Waverly Hills' reputation as hotbed of ununique spirits. The early days of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Waverly Hills wasn't originally a hospital. It was home with its own little schoolhouse. As Kentucky Historic Institutions explains, the land was originally the family home of Mayor Thomas H. Hayes, who bought the land outside Louisville, Kentucky, on which a sanatorium now stands in 1883. There were no schools in the area, so Hayes decided to build a one-room schoolhouse for his own children. The teacher he hired was named Lizzie Lee Harris, who was a big fan of the long series of novels by Sir Walter Scott known as the Waverly novels, and asked Hayes if she could name the school the Waverly School. Hayes agreed. In fact, he liked the name enough to call the entire property Waverly Hill. By the 20th century, tuberculosis was sweeping the United States, and Louisville was particularly hard hit because of its growing industrial economy and location. Within the early 20th century, economic location with the Ohio Valley, particularly hard hit because of its growing economy and all, location within the Ohio Valley, both of which contributed to a lack of fresh air flow through the city. The Board of Tuberculosis Hospital was formed in 1906 to find and operate a location for a tuberculosis hospital in Waverly Hills was thought to be an idle spot due to distance from the city, its quiet location, its high altitude comparing to air quality. The board liked the name Waverly Hill and kept it, though at some unknown point the second E was dropped. Fighting death with good vibes. In the early 20th century, tuberculosis was raging. There was no known cure, and although the disease had been around since equity, the source of the so-called white plague wasn't fully understood, as Atlas Obert explains. However, doctors at the new sanatorium at Waverly Hills had noticed that patients were able to rest and had access to clean air and sunshine, seemed to be better than others. As a result, much of the treatment at Waverly Hills was based on what the medical field refers to as good vibes, which stands in fairly sharp contrast to the building's current reputation as a hotspot for the unique dead. The location of the hospital itself was meant to contribute to the atmosphere of peace and rest, with Waverly being placed on the tall hill surrounded by charming little woods with lots of access to sun and fresh air. The original facilities at Waverly included two large open-air pavilions where the patients were packed to receive their perceived fresh air and sunshine. Abandoned and all that other original treatments at Waverly included diets rich in vitamins A and C and protein, lots of bed rest. Obviously, these treatments weren't going to cure the disease, but the goal was to reduce suffering and most importantly, help stop the spread of the infection. As official Waverly Hills site explains, the original sanatorium was a two-story frame building with a half-timber design within this building and the open-air pavilions for the patients to be exposed to the air and sun. This was meant to hold 40 to 50 patients at one time, roughly half male and half female. However, the tuberculosis reached epidemic proportions by 1910, and Louisville was particularly hard hit due to its low-lying position on the waters of Ohio River, and according to Waverly was soon overwhelmed with 140 patients in its facility designed for 40 people. As a result, construction soon began on a much larger, more permanent facility. In 1924, construction began on a new building that would be 4 stories of brick and concrete, sprawling across 180,000 square feet, including separate rooms for patients rather than communal ones, room labs, and recreation rooms. This new hospital was designed to hold up to 400 patients. It turns out they would need the space. By the late 1930s, tuberculosis was the leading cause of death in Kentucky. In fact, Kentucky led the nation of tuberculosis deaths due to the lack of state funding, long-term treatment options, and more permanent facilities like Waverly Hills. Some 2,000 people a year were dying of tuberculosis in Kentucky alone. The world of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. While it might be nice to think about living in a community like Waverly Hills where the philosophy of treatment is sunshine and good vibes, it's important to remember that tuberculosis is an incredible, highly contagious disease that was spreading in epidemic proportions. If you went to Waverly, you were never coming back. As the Waverly Hills site explains, the sanatorium circulation became a self-contained community for not only their patients but also the families of those committed to its care. Although for some reason the visitors' day was allowed, in which visitors could come hang out with people with an infectious disease and then go back to their lives. The community of Waverly Hills became essentially its own city, complete its own zip code and post office, which life seriously was carried out with its community, including raising their own fruits and vegetables, raising, slaughtering, butchering their own meat, and maintaining their own water treatment facility. Others include laundry facilities and an auto maintenance garage. These facilities had to support not only the patients of Waverly, but also the doctors, nurses, and other staff who worked at the sanatorium, who had separate from the rest of society due to their disease infectious nature. Likewise, the uninfected children of patients had their own floor in the sanatorium where they had live apart from the outside world. Waverly Hills Sanatorium wasn't all sunshine and fresh air. While it's nice to imagine Waverly's philosophy of making things as pleasant as possible for their patients suffering from tuberculosis work, the fact is there's a limit to how pleasant you can make life for someone who's constantly coughing up bloody mucus. So while it's true that the most common treatments were exposure to sunlight and bed rest, healthy foods, fresh air, including surgical methods that were cutting edge for the time but that might sound barbaric, now include perhaps that mostly pharmacs, which involved blowing air into either the lung itself or the cavity between lungs in order that partially collapse the disease portion of the lung, allowing it to rest and allowing the lesions caused by tuberculosis to heal. Patients who were unlikely to survive this predictor tried to maximize rest to their lungs by lying on the side most affected by lesions, restricting the movement of the diseased lung naturally with posture and gravity. For some time, a compliant surgery for the treatment of tuberculosis was tuberculosity, which involves the removal of multiple ribs with the intention of collapsing the lung, while doctors prefer to only remove 2 of these ribs at a time. Most patients required as many as 8 removed for this technique to effective, meaning they had to endure multiple painful surgeries. The body chute, aka the death tunnel. It's impossible to say how many people died at Waverly Hills during its time as a tuberculosis hospital. But the fact is that during its years of operation, tuberculosis was the leading cause of death in Kentucky and had no known cure, so patients at Waverly Hills were dying at pretty steady clip. While the legendary claims that some 60,000 people died at Waverly are grossly exaggerated, life science sites cities historians who say the actual number is more like 8,000 total, with a record of 152 deaths in 1945, which was the height of the epidemic. Either way, there was no shortage of dead bodies that had to be moved out the sanatorium. Patients seeing corpses being wheeled out on the regular would be pretty cooperative to Waverly's no bummers approach to medical treatment. As a result, for the purposes maintaining its high moral among the patients, policies as possible doctors and staff would move bodies in secret at the hospital in a secret tunnel through which the Myers would wheel the bodies of those who had succumbed to the disease. A closed tunnel led from the hospital to train tracks at the bottom of the hill, where the bodies could be lowered to the trains that would carry them away. Perhaps needless to say, this grim passage earned itself an equally grim nickname, the body chute. Closing Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Although Waverly Hills did their best to make life as comfortable as possible for their patients and their families, nothing was going to truly make things better until a cure for the disease was found. As luck would have, in 1943 saw the introduction of a new antibiotic called ceftriaxone. Still explains this treatment wasn't made available to the patients at Waverly until 1949. Once it was, although new patients could now be treated at a regular hospital outpatients, slowly but steadily the population at Waverly Hills was decreasing, but like in a good way. That the number of patients dropped from 373 in 1950 to 293 in 1960. In 1962, Waverly Hills closed as tuberculosis hospital, and all of its patients were transferred to a regular hospital. The building sat empty for nearly a year before the facility was reopened in 1963 as a Woods Haven generic center, a living nursing facility for elderly patients with a dementia, mobility issues, or severe medical disabilities. Woodhaven operated this facility until 1982, when it was closed by the state. A grand jury found multiple incidents of patient abuse and signs of neglect of the facility itself. Woodhaven was closed, and all of its patients were transferred to another care facility. The logical next step. The historic Kentucky installations after Woodhaven Genetic Center was closed for its criminal abuse. The majority of the land and buildings were sold off to a developer who intended to use the main building in minimum security state prison. However, massive waves of protests from locals to question this plan and backup plan of turning the building into apartments also collapsed due to lack of funds in 1996, Waverly Hills was purchased by a non-profit group to build a logical possible thing for locating the world's tallest statue of Jesus. The goal was to make 150-foot tall statue on the roof of the sanatorium, molded after the famous statue of Christ the Redeemer of Rio de Janeiro. However, the cost of the statue is estimated to be $4 million, while interior renovations turning the hospital into an arts and worship center would have been between 8 million and to 10 million donations to project total a mere 3,000. So giant tuberculosis Jesus was canceled. The Ghost of Waverly Hills. The Ghost of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. The building and its surroundings were sold in 2001 to current as the writing of Charles and Tina Madley and established the Waverly Historical Site to raise money for the restoration of buildings and turrets. And Waverly Hills now primarily serves as a haunted attraction with ghost tours and annual haunted house events. Let's be honest, it's no surprise that Waverly Hills Sanatorium is considered one of the most haunted places, not only in Kentucky, but in the whole United States. Desperate, it's being founded on the principles of being good all the time, no matter what your lungs are doing. It's still a big spooky building where thousands of people died before being wheeled through a body chute when their Marilyn Manson surgery went bad. As finished, ghost hunters, spook chasers have reported accounting all sorts of creepy phenomena. With the halls of the long abandoned hospital, you've got your old standards like unexplained footsteps, the slamming of the doors, weird noises, and so on. Obviously, Waverly was a hospital. The sound of screaming patients is thought to emanate from the long empty rooms. The hallways are said to be the scene of phantom shadows running around, and of course, there are anomalous reports of footsteps, voices, and other sounds within the hallway known as the body chute. American Hauntings reports sightings of more suspicious operations, including a ghostly hearse seen dropping off coffins at the back of the building, a woman with bleeding wrists begging for help, a man in a white coat seen wandering around trashed kitchen full of broken windows and destroyed furniture accompanied by the scent of food. The infamous fifth floor. As the legend goes, the most haunted location in the entirety of the Waverly Hills facility is the fifth floor. The legend is known that the fifth floor was where mentally disturbed patients were housed at Waverly. This floor, particularly room 502, is the center of much of the ghost stories surrounding Waverly and was the area of prime instant for ghost hunting teens breaking into the abandoned hospital for years. The stories say that it's on the floor that people have seen shapes moving in the windows, heard voices telling them to get out, and even say they jumped to their own deaths. The stories that a nurse was found in room 502 in 1928 having hanged herself from a light fixture. Apparently she was in despair over finding out that she was pregnant out of wedlock. Another nurse who worked room 502 in 1932 is said to have thrown herself off the roof patio onto the ground below, though saying she was pushed by a ghost by the other nurse ghost who can say, "We're just asking questions." Some pregnant visitors have felt extremely uncomfortable in room 502, while others have felt supernaturally compelled to jump from the windows, even to the point of having to be talked down. As frequently in the case, however, reality comes to poop the party. That's legendary fifth floor of Waverly Hills was not at any point used to house or coffin mentally ill patients, as residents were just as free to move above the floor as patients on any other floor. In fact, that the floor was designed for this exact purpose, with two words certain around the nurses' station that were glass in all sides of automatic sunlight. According to Waverly's treatment facility, these glassed-in wards did, however, lead to rooftop patios such as the one in the legends say. The nurse jumped from which visitors allied there felt compelled to leap from. To further the kill the buzz, there are no records of any nurse suicides during Waverly years of the operation. What's more, room 502 has no means by which a nurse could have hanged herself. The room has no rafters or sprinkler pipes exist in the room were added until the 1970s, and the light fixture in the room is far too delicate to support the weight of a person. The only source of cited by people telling these stories of Room 502 is now a former staff member who would have been elementary school age at the time of the nurse's alleged deaths. Timmy and the Creeper. Other common sightings include an older woman with chains around her wrists, once believed to have been a resident when she was building a generic center, and apparently goes howls for help, only to run away screaming when anyone approaches her. Another notable apparition is known as the Creeper. Due to his creeping, crawling movements up and around the walls, ceilings, and the floors, it's said that proximity to the Creeper brings with an overwhelming feeling of dread, where there's no explanation of or who or what the Creeper might be. Some think he might have been mistreated patient whose controlled appearance and reflects the trauma they experience in life. At any rate, that's a lot of darkness for a place founded on the principle of fighting disease with sunshine. That is it, y'all. That is the end of the whole introduction. Now, let's get right into the investigation. What is up, everybody? Here's Michael again. Investigation for the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. This is an actual piece of soil. It's a relic. I got EDA authentic relic. This is actual soil. The land of Waverly Hills. It says opened in 1910 to accommodate tuberculosis patients. It is said over 50,000 people died here of the White Plague. So tuberculosis, I did a whole introduction in this video. Big project. This is all the stuff I got so far. Car. Dude. He'll get you. He'll get you. Guys, I am I'm nervous right now, y'all. Y'all, what happened at Waverly Hills? Did a nurse hang herself in room 502? By the name Mary? Did another nurse jump off a patio to end her life? Are you near me right now? Are you upset that I got... This is the certificate too, y'all. Owner Thomas Hayes. You know him? Nurse Mary? Are you talking about the creeper that will get me? Well, what about the gargoyles? How many did tuberculosis wipe out all of you? How many? Deliberate. Did a nurse? There. It's literally talking. I think it's literally talking about Waverly. Are you from Waverly Hills Sanatorium? Their nurse named Mary? Room 502? What about the little boy Timmy? They said there was a doctor that And the nurse was pregnant. You remember that? Are you from Waverly Hills? That's all I need from you. If you really are from Waverly Hills, can you give me a sign?
Below.
Below. Below the death tunnel?
Old.
Yeah, old sanatorium. Are you from Waverly Hills? Louisville, Kentucky? You would know a spirit named Timmy? Timmy, are you here? Or any other 50,000 that passed? Y'all want to talk? Like, this is literally dirt from a grave. That the whole sanatorium's a grave site. And just having a little piece of soiled dirt, you never know. Do you want me to get out? Or you said the creeper will get me? Who is the creeper? Is that who you talking about?
Shish, listen.
What? Alright, I'm listening. What do you want me to listen?
Help me.
Are you a former patient from Waverly Hills Sanatorium? Can you make this EMF go off?
Battery.
You know what it's a phone. All you gotta do is talk through it. Can you tell me about room 502? Who was Timmy? Can you tell me about Timmy? Can you tell me about Nurse Mary?
I'm hiding.
You're hiding from what? What I'm holding in my left hand, does this give you memories?
Ecstasy.
Ecstasy. You know what I got in my left hand? Is anything here from Waverly Hills? Anybody from Waverly Hills Sanatorium? Can you please give me a sign? Can you say something?
You are courageous.
Could take.
Rope torture.
Oh! I'm done. I'm fucking done. That's it. Yeah, I got goosebumps out the ass. Rope torture. Guys, I got chills because if y'all don't know, you'll see in the introduction. In room 502. Was it in room 502? Or was it the patio? The top of the building of Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Did you go in the death chute? The death tunnel?
Vitality.
Vitality. Huh. Anything else you want to say to me? Bruh. I just want to know about room 502 at Waverly Hills. Are you from there? Anybody I'm talking to, are you from Waverly Hills Sanatorium? Are you here?
Skull.
Skull. I have a skull in here? I'm talking about skull.
Healing.
What about a skull? Are you talking about where you're from? What happened to you?
Effort.
If anyone from Waverly Hills want to talk, you can talk to me. I'm listening. Should I heard something? you show yourself if you're from Waverly Hills? I'm sorry.
Oppression.
I'm sorry for all your losses. I'm sorry where you passed at Waverly Hills.
Terror.
I can't imagine. I don't know, guys. So far, this app, it's given me
Arm.
a few things. Arm. My arm? Can you tell me more about Waverly Hills? I'm about to wrap this up, y'all. Hope you guys enjoyed this investigation. I think this was a pretty good investigation. Actually, pretty great. I got
Florence.
rope torture. You all guys don't know my introduction, you'll see it. So, is that all y'all want to say to me? What is Florence? What are you talking about?
I am Draco.
What? I'm gonna have to look up. Guys, if I need to look up if there's a Draco, if he was a patient at Waverly Hills. I'm curious about that. Out of 50,000 patients, I bet there's someone named Draco. Draco, was you from Waverly Hills? Can you give me a yes or no?
Better watch out.
Wow. I'm probably going to do a part 2 of this because there was, as soon as I started bringing this, as soon as I got this, my bathroom light, one of the light bulbs, is flickering, all the time and it won't stop.
Demise.
Better watch out for what? Alright, y'all. I'm gonna end it right here. So if y'all want to see a part 2, give it a likes. So I'll investigate the bathroom, and see if there's anything there, stuff like that. That's, if y'all want to see that, give it a like. That's all y'all gotta do, and I'll make it. So yeah, and I'm not a bullshitter. The light was really flickering like crazy, and my mom actually came in and said the glass was hanging off. And if you guys remember, the light bulb in the Waverly Hills thing was the cords always hung off, from the ceiling. I don't know.
My name is Peter.
Your name is Peter. So that's another one, Draco and Peter. See if there's from Waverly Hills. Are y'all from Waverly Hills? Alright.